In this video, I will talk about essay number 2 and what you need to know to successfully begin writing this essay. This is an argumentative essay, meaning you are trying to persuade your audience to believe your opinion about a point. And you are going to form an opinion about a vahipana. In last week's lesson, we learned about vahipana. So a place in Hawaii that is storied, that has long-standing historical significance. You can choose a place on any of the Hawaiian islands. It does not have to be on Hawaii Island. And your hua, or your purpose for this essay, is to learn about a vahipana with the intention of preserving and protecting it for future generations. This starts by finding a story related to the vahipana that shows its historical and cultural importance. And then we can think about the retelling of a story as an act of communal and ecological resilience. So it's important for this essay to find a story about the place that you're researching. So keep that in mind as you begin thinking about which place you'd like to write about. Because this is an argumentative essay, you will need to make a debatable point about the place that you're writing about. So you need to think beyond statements that are widely agreed upon. For example, stating that a vahipana is important just because it's historical, because there's a story about it, isn't enough. You need to dig deeper for this assignment. Try to write something meaningful about the vahipana that is also debatable. I suggest that you look at the sample essays number 2 and number 3 that are about vahipana and lamaku, to get some ideas about what other students in the past have written about in regards to creating an argument about a vahipana. It's also important to note that your last paper, which is the research paper, will be using the same vahipana, the same place that you're writing about in essay number 3. For the last paper, you're going to expand upon what you've already written in essay number 2 with some specific researched points that are included in the essay number 3 assignment. I also included a link to our Mo'okini Library website where you can find some helpful sources in regards to looking for stories related to your vahipana. You can also just go to whatever search engine you're using and you could type in Hawaiian Legends Index. And that will take you directly to this site that is housed at UH Manoa. And then you can type in whatever place you want to write about or just kind of check out to see what kind of stories you can find. If there's a link, that means that the text has been digitized, so you can just look at it online. But if you find call numbers, those are call numbers for the public libraries throughout Hawaii, which also correspond with UH Manoa's library, not the Mo'okini Library on the UH Hilo campus. I'm going to go back over to new search, and then you could just do the browse, and there's an alphabetical list of places, maybe if you're having a really hard time thinking of a place. So that is definitely one option. I also recommend checking out Ulukau. And there is a ton of information on Ulukau. So it might take a little time to become familiar with this site if you haven't used it before. There are a lot of digitized books in Ulukau where you can find things like mo'olelo or stories about vahipana. By default, the page is in Olelo Hawaii and Hawaiian. You can toggle over and switch it to English. But this is a really useful resource, again, in terms of locating kind of anything related to Hawaii. Just going to go back to our essay and go down to the guidelines, again, using MLA format. There is a template when you get to the rough draft assignment. Please use the template. or at least copy the template so your document is correctly formatted. Oh, this says a 3 to 4 page minimum. That should say 4 to 5 pages right now. And there is a 2 source minimum requirement for this essay. So you will need to find those sources independently. And again, one of those sources should be a story related to the place that you're researching. Here's a link to the rubric. Here's a link to turnitin.com. And if you have any questions about writing this paper, getting started with this paper, please let me know. I am happy to meet with you, answer your questions so that you are successful in completing this essay. For the creating thesis and outline assignment, the template is the same. So it's going to be the same for all of the essays. Again, starting by noting your topic. Your topic is going to be the place you're researching. So who or what is my subject? For example, if you're writing about white people, then you would just put white people here. What point do you want to make about white people? So remember, we're going beyond saying something like white people is a special place historically in Hawaii to developing something that's more debatable, such as tourists should not be allowed to go into white people, or tour buses should not be allowed to take tourists down into the valley because the road is being deteriorated each time one of those vans drives down the road. Or you could say the opposite and say anybody should have access to white people, or tourists should be allowed with these kinds of considerations. So really, those are just quick examples off the top of my head to show you that you need to have something that is debatable, meaning people aren't necessarily going to agree with your point or your argument, which is your opinion about the place. From there, create questions related to your thesis statement. The answers should be your major supporting points. And then in this next section, this is where you get specific with detailed information. And as I mentioned in the last video for the first essay, you do not have to have 4 points. This is just what I put on the page as an example, as a starting point. And then when you get to the rough draft, this is the template. Some people for essay number 1 didn't use the template. So just as a reminder, you will be making a copy when you open this template. This is your copy to type on. So you can click up here, put your own last name here. To get out of the header, click below the header line and then replace this information. So you put your own name here, put the due date here, add a title that is specific to your topic, and then start writing your essay. Again, as a reminder, as you start a new paragraph, to indicate that you are creating a new paragraph, please space. So there should be a space or an indentation to indicate a new paragraph is being created each time you have a new paragraph. Please do not start your essay with your thesis statement. Please introduce your topic and build up to your thesis statement. So your thesis should be at the end or near the end of your introduction. And then for your supporting points, those should correspond with whatever you included in your outline. And then somewhere in your supporting points, you should have either a paraphrase or a direct quote. You can do all direct quotes, all paraphrases, mix it up, but at least one for each of your secondary sources that you are going to include. You can include primary sources too, but for your cited information, that will go in the supporting paragraphs. And then you will conclude your essay with the works cited page. So this should be on a separate page. And you will have at least 2 entries for those 2 required sources for this essay. These are just examples. So you can delete these and put your own sources in, whatever it is you're going to use. And to show you when you get to this part, there is a tool to help you create citations. So in Google Docs, if you go to Tools and then Citations, it's in MLA 8th edition, which is okay, even though we're in the 9th edition. You just leave this there as default, and then click on this button, Add Citation Source. You can click on the drop down and choose what kind of source it is, and then go from there. If you're unable to find a citation, sometimes the tool is unable to create a citation. You're always able to do that manually by just plugging in the information. So this tool always 100% accurate, but it's a starting point. And then if anything, if there is anything incorrect with the source citation, I will let you know as I review your rough draft. And again, if you do have any questions about writing this essay, please let me know. I am always happy to meet with you and provide extra help. Thank you.